Labor's criticism is he's got skin in the game. He's just made $500,000 thanks to capital gains tax.
Well, look, I think it's really... We shouldn't be making tax policy on the basis of the Prime Minister's personal situation. Let's be honest about it, that's not a very good way to make tax law. And this whole discussion is pretty facile because...
Yeah, but also, it's not a good way to defend tax law by saying because this one individual, because as Emily has said, this could be replicated hundreds, if not thousands of times across the country. He may be emblematic of a much bigger issue, even though we're talking about one person, who is also changing laws to enable him to then get that money tax-free, whereas under Labor, the bright line was longer and he would not have got it. So yes, I think it is worth talking about him.
Of that, we should be making tax policy on the basis of what's best for the economy and what's best to get out of the recession that we are in right now.
Agreed.
And how do we create a more prosperous New Zealand? And we remain opposed to a capital gains tax. The Prime Minister has never hid the fact that he is wealthy. He has done well in life. He started off, living down in Christchurch and was the first in his family to go to university. He's become successful in business. He's now entered politics.
Sheesh, bit of a fanboy here, Mr. Bishop. You maybe want to just lower the volume on the bootlicking. Good grief.
Sounds like
everyone
JD
knows all
Vance.
that. So let's stop talking about whether or not the Prime Minister owns a property or not, he sold it and made a gain or not, and let's start talking about the real issues facing New Zealand, eh?
Well, if we want to talk about the real issues,
mate,
let's not try and paint this into something that it's not. No one's trying to develop tax policy, and we're not just talking about this or as a result of this discussion. No one's having this discussion out of the blue. This has been a long-ranging topic in this country, and it's come into the public sphere because the Prime Minister has sold 2 of his 7 properties and made $500,000 and hasn't paid tax. Now, it's entirely fair to have that discussion on the basis of that. MPs and ministers are required to declare their interests every single year so that people know whether or not there is any conflict of interest. And if someone is rallying against the idea of a capital gains tax, then makes profit without paying tax when everybody else pays tax, that is a fair yarn to have.
There you go. As Kieran always says, a fair yarn to have. Emily, I saw you pulling out your hair there. Would you like to take over, please?
It's this whole idea of it's not something that's of importance to New Zealand when flipping property is kind of the only way to actually get ahead in the country. But in order to invest in property, you kind of need to have money, which not a lot of people do. And it's just getting way and way harder to actually buy a house. I know, because I haven't been able to buy a house. But it just really annoys me. I don't know. I think this whole thing he's emblematic of a wider issue. A week ago, we had, the ANZ CEO saying probably should do it.
Yeah, about time.
So it's not exactly like it's come out of nowhere. And I also think it's a dumb thing for Christopher Luxon to do this while he's the Prime Minister, because it's just highlighting the problem. If he was it's not like he has to sell it right this minute, but he should have held on to it. It wouldn't have been an issue. It might have worked in his favour.
Yeah, we often think about the optics. I mean, you're a person who's obviously well versed in wrapping up a package with the bow, metaphorically speaking, with the marketing type design ideas, and the optics of what these guys do. Sometimes really unwise. I agree. Like if he had have kept them for another 2 years or whatever it's going to be, and if they lose, which is odds are they won't, but if they did, and he goes back to being a citizen and he sells them then for more profit, because here's the flip side to it. I'm a wealthy guy. I'm taken care of means you don't actually need to sell it. You don't need to sell it. You just want to sell it.
Yeah. Do we know why that's probably his personal reasons, but do we know why he sold it? Was it a rental property? Was it just a batch?
One of them was the apartment he was living in Wellington, and he was moving into Premier House, so he sold it. So he didn't need it. But what I'm saying is, if I was in a position like you, for example, and I wanted to get into another property, I could flip one and then get into another property. He doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need the money in his hand because he's doing something else. So just again, the optics around someone who's not quite, I don't want to say smart enough, but wise enough is probably better to go, this is not going to be a good look. You are writing Labor's adverts at the next election already. You're helping the situation. It's just it makes me feel like he is more naive than he should be at this level of politics. Yeah. Yeah.
He's definitely not a politician. someone like the Bish, that's nice. The Bish is a politician. He knows how to spin things. Nicola Willis, politician, knows how to spin things. They all know how to spin stuff. He doesn't know how to do it. His PR team are very good at writing him, say this, don't go off script. And it's so obvious when you hear it over and over and over again, he doesn't answer the question. And he's not good at spinning a narrative like most politicians are, which doesn't work in his favor. And it's kind of like the Trump thing, right? You look at Trump and he's saying cats and dogs stuff on TV, and then you see JD Vance, who's saying pretty much the same stuff, but he's a trained politician. So it goes over the heads of most people. And they go, oh, that sounds like that does sound like a good idea. Whereas they might look at, someone else and go, not so much. But
that's where
he just hasn't learned the game yet.
This is where you need journalists and people like us to go. Even though the Bish sounds like he knows what he's talking about, just let's figure out what he's saying. They're not coming for your jewelry. They're not coming for your art. It sounds scary. He's done that well. That sounds scary. But it's not. We're talking about for houses, potentially your family home. That's how it happens around the world, potentially. But other places, invest. If you own more than 2 properties, if you own more than 3 properties, actually going after the people who are using this as an income. Because that's the other thing. If you are using this for an income, a property developer is using this for an income. The people who are buying and flipping or developing and selling, then that's their job. The person working at the dairy, his job or her job gets taxed. If you are a property developer, that's your job. That profit should be taxed.